Well, I realized that maybe I made Jasper nervous when I came in with all these things that go on that stand, as if I was doing a paper PowerPoint today. But I'm not, I promise. Hopefully it will be funny and engaging is my goal. I feel like I was at a church for 8 years and they never knew if they were supposed to laugh at me or call for help. And so I'm just going to say it's okay to laugh with me. That's what we'll call it, with. My name is Stephanie Price, as Jasper said, and I am the newly appointed pastor of The Land, which should raise no questions. It's actually a community around food, faith, and farming that's located in Aurora, but not just Aurora, way out towards the airport, Aurora. And Jasper's right. I totally forgot about that new church interview thing. So you're going to find this out throughout the sermon, but I was being such a snot. I kind of have this pattern going now that I realize in live stream. But I was being a snot at this interview. I had been working on The Land since 2013. And what year was that? Maybe 2016, 15? They called in to interview me to see if I was equipped to do it. And I was so irritated because there's been this part of me, to be honest, with The Land and all the work that we've been doing of I've been dragging my feet. I've dug my heels in. It's like a 3-year-old that says, I want to go to the park. I want to go to the park. I want to go to the park. And then mom's like, all right, we're going to the park. And you want to watch a cartoon. That's kind of my spiritual journey. And so when I showed up to that interview, I was like, Jasper was right. I guess I did say that. I was like, fine, don't give it to me then. What was my problem? It's sort of embarrassing in retrospect, but it's also embarrassing because what year is it? And nothing's really changed. You're going to see that quickly. So I'm excited to be here because I'm doing this Land launch preaching tour, which was actually my Presbyterian friend's idea. Presbyterians have great ideas, so I would seek those out at any opportunity. She said, you should do a Land launch preaching tour because what our vision is not only to have a worshiping community around food, faith, and farming, but also to be a denominational resource for people who want to come out and kind of live in that intersection between growing food, nature, spirituality, sort of all of that kind of weird mix of messiness. And so last week, I was at Johnstown UMC, and I realized it's much different to be a guest preacher than it is to preach at a congregation you've been at for 8 years. They loved me. They really thought I was special because they didn't know all the other stuff about me. They jaded every word that I said. So I'm really excited about this whole guest preaching gig in general, but I'm excited to be here because I feel like I'm hoping and I'm projecting onto you, so you should anticipate this, that there is some relatability in our experiences because we're both doing new and different things. So I thought that I would start with this picture. So at The Land, we worship out in a field. There is nothing there. That's just the way it is. And so this is me yesterday morning. And look, see, this is happy Stephanie. I'm smiling, even though I'm really hot, and the straw is definitely itching my legs, but I'm happy because there are dogs here, and the dogs have figured out that it's almost time for communion, and so they don't care. They're like, we still have one more thing to do. They come and are waiting for it. They actually have started barking during the prayer of consecration, which is pretty awesome. And so in this picture, Saturday morning, let's say 10:30 a.m., I'm super happy and at peace with my life. And then I go to a church where I love all the people so much I would call them family for a memorial service that I'm leading. And people are asking me questions, and I'm tired and I'm hot, and my daughter's going to camp today, so that all that stuff was mixing up. And I'm going through tons of transition, and so all that's there too. But let's just blame it on them and their questions, because that's what family does. It's family's fault. And so this is me Saturday evening, you might notice it's kind of hard to see, but this is a rattlesnake. And this is Grumpy Stephanie. And so within a period of like 24 hours, I went from happy Stephanie with furry friends to grumpy Stephanie. John's afraid to come into the kitchen. John's my husband. And I feel like there may be some source of relatability to that experience, because doing a new thing can be really frustrating. Doing a new thing requires us to explain what we're doing to people who may or may not be interested in really understanding what it is that we're doing. So I was thinking about some of the questions that you might get as belong, translated from what I get on a regular basis. And this is what I've come up with. And I was going to read it in a really obnoxious voice, but I felt like that was going too far. So I'm just going to read it in a regular voice, knowing that I'm not really judging anyone, and it all comes back around to Jesus' love in the end. What's your church's name again? Become? Oh, yeah, Belong. Where do you guys meet? Oh, I thought that church closed down. That building's pretty old, isn't it? I bet it's going to need a ton of work. I should come sometime. When's your service? Oh, 5 o'clock? At night? Do you have people come to that? Now, maybe you have never had any of these questions or experiences. And so if that's actually the case, then I need to apologize, because everything in the sermon may be completely irrelevant to your life. But if you just stick with me for a couple minutes, I'm going to give you some more scenarios of what belong looks like out at the land in this scenario. So I want you to imagine that you're telling somebody that you've just been appointed, or that you're going to church here at the land. Not on Sundays, but on Saturdays at 10. So just hold on to that for a minute. Oh, Saturday mornings are hard for me. That might be rough. Oh, you're appointed there? I was wondering if they would figure out what to do with you out there. I saw your pictures on Facebook. It looked like a small crowd out there, said in a worried tone, as if my thumbs would be cut off by the district superintendent if I don't meet some unnamed quota. I have to get some water, sorry. They don't cut thumbs off, just toes, right, Jasper? And we don't need all of our toes, so... How are you going to get people there? I don't know. I guess I will have to pay them and bus them in, just like everyone else. I'm not even an outdoors person, and I want to scream at the top of my lungs, when did we all become such whiners? We are following a God who became a man on earth, chose to be born in a barn only to grow up, to be betrayed, arrested, beaten, and crucified on the cross, so that we might have a life of complaining about the weather and the parking and the traffic and all the work we have to do because we are so tired and busy and lonely and afraid. Then I start crying because I just ranted in the kitchen, and my husband didn't even try to stop me, and I ran out of hateful, angry, bitter things to say, and now I just feel like a sad rattlesnake, not the cool, angry kind. My husband's eyes are as big as I have ever seen them, as if I were holding a knife while I was ranting. Cold-hearted and obviously completely detached from the plight of my suffering, he has the audacity to suggest that perhaps I should take a break from working. And maybe that's why Jesus leaves Judea for Galilee. Last week, I imagined that he was probably afraid of getting in trouble with the Pharisees. After all, the scripture tells us they were all wound up because Jesus is allegedly baptizing more people than John the Baptist, the baptizing champion. I mean, the name doesn't really work if Jesus is baptizing more people than John. I get it. But maybe Jesus wasn't afraid at all. Maybe he was just worn down from being surrounded by the very people who were supposed to get it, constantly asking all the wrong questions and worrying about all the wrong things. And needing to get away, he takes the quickest route to Galilee, requiring him to pass through Samaria, a place of little respect and perhaps even less importance. Samaria, gross. Jesus ends up in Samaria due to geographical expediency. Jesus chooses to stay in Samaria for theological necessity, stomping away from the frustrating confines of traditional Judaism. He reaches a well in Samaria, the halfway point between where he was and where he hoped soon to be. It is noon, and when he arrives at the well, the midday sun is reaching its peak. His legs are weary from travel. He is probably complaining about the heat and mumbling under his breath about how they really should build a building to provide air conditioning for this well. His heart is heavy, his tongue bitter, with a residue of an ongoing drama. Losing none of himself in the journey, he slithers to the well and snaps a command to an unnamed bystander, present only to gather water for her family. Give me a drink. No, please. No. Hi, my name is Jesus. No tiptoeing around the fact that Jews don't converse with Samaritans, nor should a rabbi be speaking to a woman in public. 4 words arrive like bulldozers crashing into the Berlin Wall, demolishing the fear of ritual contamination and replacing it with a visible mistrust. She scoffs at his inappropriate boldness. Who do you think you are? Questions his intentions with words that push back, but the door is opened as he answers to her. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Just a quick 36 miles from Judea, and Jesus loses it on some poor woman at the well. Of course, she would have no idea who he was or why he was asking her for a drink. Jesus was having a horrible, no good, very bad day. And this woman, I think we can call her Sandra or Sally, gets hit with this statement of pent-up frustration. The Pharisees, the church people, didn't know the gift of God, nor who Jesus was. If they had, they wouldn't have been asking such stupid questions. They wouldn't have been worried about such dumb things. They would have let it slide that just this once Jesus beat John in the annual baptizing contest. But these people, these devout, educated, probably well-meaning people, forgot the God they once met, becoming interested, forgetting, in the possibility that maybe, just maybe one day, they might meet this God again. Long before I woke up to find myself worshiping on the land, I met a God in the lush backyard of a small home in upstate New York. A constant companion to long days filled in crooked tree houses and slippery shell beds. A warm and lasting presence in the rich mud crusted all across my skin. God in the familiar hellos of birds playing catch above my bouncing little head. This God followed my mother and I out of the first church I ever attended after the pastor denied her communion and she refused to make a polite exit. And this God held the door open when the time came to return to a new church in a new place. This God heard my desperate prayer that I would not have to walk the path to seminary alone and silently ushered my future husband into a booth at the restaurant where I worked the next day. This God whispered in my ear, "It's time to go. as I trembled in the darkest room, filled only with the light of prayer on a walk to Emmaus just days before my life changed in the best ways forever. This God shined in the face of my daughter the day she was born, and every day since, binding us together with a love so vibrant, it often electrocutes both of us. This God I once met follows me around and waits ahead of me and lives within me. This God calls my name no matter what time of the day it is. This God calls me beloved, whether I embody the spirit of St. Francis or the temperament of a rattlesnake, because there is something about this world and our churches in this place that wears down possibility from our souls. It is not Jesus alone that stands at the well in Samaria this evening, but each and every one of us, drawn from different places on different journeys, with unique and weird visions, trying to explain to somebody on the street what it means to belong, how you get to the land. We have woken up in a world that no longer recognizes the God we once knew, and we must look deep down in our wells of our souls to ask the reflection, do we know who it is that we ask for a drink? Who offers us again and again an invitation to ingest living water? See, this is a water that washes away the scales of a world shielding us from the other. This is a water that floods the gates, holding the boundaries around a stagnant journey so filled with busyness we could have forgotten that we were supposed to be following someone, somewhere. This water hits our face like a fire hose and wakes us up to a God shouting, "Give them a drink!" as he shepherds to the well the reflection of the person we once were when we too believed. How many people came to worship today? Just one, I think I will say. One man at a well, a stranger I could have sworn I once knew, offered me a drink when I didn't even know I was thirsty. The God we meet in this place tonight, that God is a God we bring with us to the world's well. And my God is so expansive in grace and fertile in love, to be planted anywhere would be to wait upon the arrival of the surest harvest. This God I know, this God we all know, waits for us not just in churches with walls behind preachers with robes, but at the well with a stranger, waiting to quench our thirst with an invitation to pause and imagine a gesture of hospitality in a foreign land. A glass of water, a listening ear, a calming smile. Do you see the God you once knew? He's waiting for us with the hope that our questions may lead to open doors and our worries might carry us to a land lush from the fruits of a living water. Amen.